And for today's AMA, we are going to be joined by Mr. Johnny. So Mr. Johnny will be the one to be with us today on this AMA to introduce the project and also answer the questions that we have prepared for today's AMA. So hello, Mr. Johnny, and welcome to Crypto Astronaut.
Thank you. Thank you. It is my pleasure. I definitely was looking forward to this, and I know my community was as well. So glad to be here.
Wonderful. So now that we're already here, Mr. Johnny, before we get into the questions that we have prepared, let's start with a quick introduction from you. Okay, so Mr. Johnny, can you please introduce yourself to the people listening to us today? Tell us something about yourself, your experiences in the space.
Okay. So I've been in crypto now for about 10 years. Um, I fell in love with Bitcoin in about 2017, like a lot of people, and I became consumed with it. I'm thinking of the Andreas Antonopoulos speeches back in the day where he said, I became consumed of it. It became my diet. And I just thought it was so cool of empowering people to have their sovereignty back. Seemed like we had been resigned for a long time to kind of this is the way things were. And that kind of changed it. You had an option to opt out, which for a lot of places was very important. And I'm a musician as well, not by trade, but just by passion. And I was fortunate enough to be pretty successful in my business career. Ran a few businesses, did pretty well. Retired a few years ago. Always loved crypto and never really planned on ever launching anything, just because it didn't really seem like a lot of the tokens actually had a reason to exist in a lot of instances. Like I love governance. I think it makes a lot of sense. But if A16Z or has 70% of your token, it's not necessarily governance. We obviously love them, and we love all our VCs in the space. But if you're trying to build something really distributed, I think it's important that upfront a lot of steps be taken to ensure that the distribution is correct. Sorry, I'm getting all sorts of those notifications aren't coming through, hopefully.
No, we can
Oh,
actually hear anything. Yeah.
okay. And then did you want me to tell you about the project now, or did you want to?
Yeah, Mr. Johnny, for sure. But firstly, thank you so much for introducing yourself. It's a pleasure for me and the community to meet you. So now let's talk about what you have founded and what you're building. So, Mr. Johnny, can you introduce us, Suede, and can you also share the vision behind it, and
Sure.
also what inspired you to create the project?
So the inspiration behind it was, I'm sure you're aware, like most people, there's a lot of exploitation going on. A lot of things have come to light recently in the media about the music industry as a whole. Um, and I read an article about a girl, Mahalia, and you may be familiar. She's an artist, a musician. I'm not very familiar with her work, but she signed a contract when she was 13. And now she's essentially owned for the rest of her life by the record label, and she just barely scrapes by. She rents a flat, I think, in London, and just barely gets by. And she's one of the top streamers in the world. And so that sort of practice isn't uncommon in that industry, which is I think very, very concerning. So blockchain, when I was a kid, we'd have to prove like who had written the music. You'd have to mail yourself a tape, a cassette tape of the actual song, get it in the mail, and whoever received it first was proof that you had created it. Well, with blockchain, you have the ability to ensure intellectual property rights are stored in a way that's hashed, immutable, and all the great things that we love about blockchain. So that's kind of a byproduct. But with the AI agents, I saw a unique opportunity to evolve these agents in a way that could actually draw provenance back to an individual artist and not just be this huge pool like ChatGPT is or OpenAI or any of the and they're great what they're doing. But as far as like if you create a musical composition, you could be contributing to it, but there's 1,000 other artists, so no one really gets acknowledged or royalties paid to. So if you can limit that enough, you get something less homogenized, you get something unique, and you get something that is due royalties because you can draw a line to who created it. And that's the concept with the AI agent.
Thank you very much, Sir Johnny, for that
Sure.
introduction about Suede, and that's a really great way to kickstart the AMA. But now, well, we're still more curious for more. So, like you mentioned, Mr. Johnny, right? Actually, when you observe the music industry, it's actually dominated by record labels, and I think we all know that. I mean, for all people. So, Mr. Johnny, my question for you now is. Can you explain how the Suede give power back to to the artists, to those who deserve them?
Sure. So one of the problems with up and coming musicians is a lot of the music industry is stuff that we don't even really recognize as people not directly in it, such as compositions for movies and music. That's a huge part of the industry. Unfortunately, a lot of the anyone that's been on YouTube or been on Spotify knows that unless you have 4,000 hours of listening and 1,000 subscribers, like there's no way to make a single penny. And that's problematic for an artist that's trying to support themselves and actually give themselves over to the craft. So if you can make those sort of microtransactions, as well as the bigger pieces, um, you can kind of, I don't want to say Trojan horse, but you can kind of install yourself in a place where you've already got a royalty stream. And then for the record label, it's a fair compromise because they're not paying no royalties, but they're not paying full royalties. And they have the benefit of being able to access a prolific AI that can give very specific outputs. Um, so that's really what I think is very unique about it. I think it's going to be the ethical standard. I've called it in Hollywood and in music for quite some time, and maybe it becomes the standard period because people don't really want to hear very generic homogenized type music, but at the same time also um, we've grown to be somewhat less discerning than we used to be, and I think that's because our expectations for music and art have really been, I don't want to say nullified, but they've been diminished. And so we've kind of, I think there's this sense of nihilism in the artistic space that, like, whatever I turn on the radio, it's just going to be, some bland, generic 145 progression without really pushing any of the, norms. And so I think back of the Beatles and in every generation, they really defied kind of like the mop top, like everything was very much against the conformity. And then it defined the generation. So it defied it and then it defined it. And so if we can create an AI agent that is specifically based around the traits of individuals, then they're not necessarily so much of a safe average and the least offensive output. They're a more balanced representation of the imperfections and kind of the feelings of somebody that's helping to shape it.
That is very wonderful to know, Mr. Johnny. Thank you so much for that. And now I
My
know for sure
pleasure.
that there's lots of people who are really interested on investing, of course. So, Mr. Johnny, my next question for you, for users who are now considering on investing, can you explain more in regards to the tokenomics and what makes the Suede token that you guys have a sustainable investment for the
Sure.
people? Yeah.
No, that's a great question. And it's something that we've worked extremely hard and we've adapted and evolved to the process because, I've been very successful running businesses and I've always loved crypto. I think a lot of the intricacies, when it comes to hashing algorithms and things like that. But as far as token launches, that wasn't really something that I'd ever been involved in directly. So I hired some great advisors and I learned as I went. And what I did learn, and a big step that we took to kind of show my commitment to what we're building, in the beginning, one address had 53% of the supply. And that was just by nature of the way in which it was started. It was a free, fair launch. There was no pre-mine. And so everything was bought in the open market. And interestingly enough, we launched on Pump Fund specifically for the transparency elements, because a lot of the other platforms, and I won't name them directly, they have royalties and taxes that are built in. And a lot of people don't know that. And so we launched on Pump Fund, so it's fully diluted. There was no, low float type thing. Everything was out there, and there was no royalties, no taxes. And but then we ran into the problem where there was a large concentration of supply. And in order for this AI agent to actually work correctly, it needs to be distributed. Because if someone has an inordinate amount of influence on it, then it just becomes that person versus a collaboration with enough people to make it unique. Um, so we burnt 53% of the supply. We had a lot of accusations of, oh, this is questionable. Why does someone have this? And that could be a reason to just take off and things like that. And my intention is just to be a part of something huge and leave I think a pretty great legacy for my daughter, and something that I could be proud of. And I've already been fortunate enough to be successful financially, which is just a small part of life, but it's enough for me to be able to support a project and not need to do that. So I think we took the biggest steps that we knew possible to make people feel truly comfortable in the fact that we're here for the long haul, and this isn't a like a get out or type thing. We wanted people to know, like, we're going to take all the steps possible so everyone can have that confidence that I have, because I know my intentions, but not everybody else does. But if they look at the supply and see, okay, that over $500,000 is gone forever, just as a gesture of distribution and commitment to the long-term vision, I think that's a really strong statement. And so that's ensured that now our distribution is wonderful. Um, you look at the Gini coefficient, which is a way that we use to check Bitcoin and early on and see just how distributed it was amongst top addresses. And for new launches, I think ours is as good as it gets from people that have analyzed it. So that was a huge step. The next thing that I was about to do, and then was advised not to, was I was going to lock up all the little bit of supply I had left for 18 months. But we do want to have supply ready for exchanges when they do onboard in lots of instances. So we're doing a rolling 7-day lock. So this way people know, hey, I can't sell tomorrow or anything like that. But we do have the capital to deploy with the governance proposal and everyone being on board with that. So that I can't sell, but you also know we have it available for when we need it, with ample warning and notice ahead of time. I don't know if that answers the question as far as kind of how the token builds value, but
It did perfectly, Mr. Johnny. Actually,
okay,
that was
good,
much, much more of what we asked. Thank you so much for that very
good.
wonderful explanation
My
about the
pleasure.
Suede token. Thank you so much. So, another question that I also want to ask Mr. Johnny, right? For this project to be really successful, it must be accessible for the people. I mean, for your
Yes.
target users specifically. So, Mr. Johnny, my question for you is, how are you making this project accessible to artists and users who are entirely new to crypto?
That's such a great question, because I think our credo has kind of been since day one, we don't want anybody on the front end to even know they're dealing with crypto. We love them to learn and possibly start to realize kind of the way it's working in the background, but we don't want them to have to, buy Suede token and go through that process on exchanges and things. We want it to be as frictionless as possible, because in order for us to hit saturation the way that we intend to, we need there to be a smooth on ramping. So it's actually works quite well because on the front end, whomever is purchasing the music, they could do so with a credit or debit, which would then in real time be converted to Suede token, which would give buying support, and then the Suede token would be distributed to the token holders in a form of passive income, which wouldn't likely be problematic because they're Suede holders already, so they are aligned with the vision. So receiving royalties in Suede token likely will be good for them, as well as boosting the demand on the token as well, without there being on the front end any friction. And then all of the mechanics behind the scenes are handled by crypto natives, guys, like our team and stuff like that. But for the people that are purchasing music on the front end, everything stays very streamlined, very simple, because we need it to be, because we're up against enough uh, difficulties. I don't want to say difficulties because they're just really catalysts for kind of implementing our project. They're great opportunities, to be honest. But we just want to make sure that friction is as avoidable as possible.
Got that, Mr. Johnny. Thank you so much for that. But
My pleasure.
following up on that, right? Uh, for the part of the artist, because once again, they're like mainly the targets, right? So my question for you, Mr. Johnny, is how easy will it be for this artist to integrate their music into the platform and secure proof of ownership? Because once again, the artist, there may be people who are not so not so familiar with crypto. They don't know how this works. So how easy will it be for them?
Well, it'll be very easy because they'll have DAW ability to play music back and forth. But where it gets really interesting is we can retain the musical proficiency of an AI agent. So we could have an AI agent that has full classical training, full music theory, full, triadal and all of the things that you would need to compose that. We could retain that if we decide that to be the best route based off governance. And then you would basically be able to, I don't know if you've used like a Mid Journey or anything where you've created designs, you type in something like, I want a mellow street corner, something like that. And so you start to begin throughout this conversation, something known as an iterative feedback loop. And it's like a dynamic conversation which evolves based on the back and forth. So you could have a totally verbal conversation with no exchange of anything melodically and have the agent create a piece that is emblematic of what you're trying to convey without any musical ability. That's not going to be our primary catered market because we want to empower artists. But I do think everyone is inherently artistic to some extent, even whether they recognize it or not. So I think it's important for us to give the ability for people that want to express as well, because I've seen lots of instances where people found out they were good songwriters and they never planned on playing a musical instrument, but they had this need to write lyrics. And next thing you know, they picked up a guitar to put something behind that, and they realized that they're incredibly creative. And it seems like it's often the people that think they're least creative that usually are very creative. People making Hallmark cards and stuff like that, that's a certain level of creativity, but it's not necessarily all creativity. I think just life in general is inherently artistic. All of the things that we do on a daily basis, in spite of a lot of the difficulties, is very much creative problem solving. So I think giving the ability for the artists that are established as well as people that are dipping their toes is a really good dual platform that should help cater a much wider market than we currently have.
Totally wonderful, Mr. Johnny. Thank you so much once again for that very
Sure.
amazing, very concise answer. So, I also want to ask, basically we're on the blockchain space today, we're on the Web3 space. Everything is totally about decentralization now. So, I also want to ask Sir Johnny, are there mechanisms in place, let's say for users or even for investors, for the token holders, to influence the project's direction?
That's a great question. And that's kind of what I alluded to with the 53% supply, because typically what would be done in that case would be sent to a DAO treasury, or it would be, put to a locked wallet. But those funds are always there, and they're always able, whether they're locked or not, to have influence on governance. So by removing the typical, huge, large portion, we basically chopped off the top and then made sure that the remainder was a lot of different addresses, different people that had the ownership. And so there, as it stands, is no ability for anyone to have undue influence outside of the distribution curve that has been based off of everybody buying tokens on the open market. Like I said, no pre-mine. There was no stealth launch or anything like that. Everything was done out in the open. The tokens that I have, I purchased and then I burned them. Um, so that's been the decentralization has been extremely important to us, because in order for the AI to evolve in a way that's actually unique, there cannot be undue influence from any particular actor. And the token holders, that's the amount of influence they have on the AI, similar to voting or something like that, like proposals. Whatever percentage you have of tokens is the percentage of influence you have on the AI, and thusly is the percentage of royalties you're due based upon snapshot at time of creation. And the blockchain will create very makes that very easy to do, as well as secure the intellectual property and have provenance. But so that's the steps that we've taken to ensure full decentralization, which I think is unprecedented. I've not seen any project that's gone to the lengths of saying, "All right, we're going to get rid of everything we own to ensure that we and still work as 22 hours a day to ensure that this becomes as massive as the potential is to really affect change and and still have the same amount of skin in the game as everybody else. So that was a very important step that we've taken, and I think it's going to help ensure that everything remains the way it has been, because it's going to be very difficult for anybody to somehow corner the supply. It'd be nearly impossible. So um, that's been really a big step, and wonderful to see the acknowledgement for that from the crypto space.
That is very fantastic to know, Mr. Johnny. Thank you for that. But since we're already on the topic of decentralization, I think it's very important for mostly crypto. I mean, for all crypto projects right now, it's very important to have that community, right? I mean, that certain community that you're building, supporting the project. So it's very important to build that community. So I also want to ask you, Mr. Johnny, right, in terms of the community, because once again, I think these are the main, it's a main pillar, like powering the entire
For sure.
protocol. So my question for you, Mr. Johnny, is can you explain now how can the community contribute to the project's growth and also help on raising, awareness about the potential of Suede?
That's a great question, because it is, and that's something that I've learned intimately over the past few weeks. Just how important the community is to really having that fervor and that passion, and how much that your vision and your alignment with other people's vision can create that. It's really incredible that we've been able to see like people like realize what we're doing and then just jump all in. And it's to me it's encouraging. It's very encouraging, because sometimes we feel like we're the only person that sees this, or not a lot of people feel this way. And when you see a community that's like just so feels that same way, like, wow, he understands and I understand and we're on the same level and we want this to happen, and they go out and they're just pushing the word to everybody they can. And everybody, you'll see it in our price action. Nobody wants to sell, and so it's a matter now of getting as many eyes on it as possible, because everybody that learns about it is blown away by the tokenomics, by the potential, by the accessibility, the real world application. And so that's all a result of a passionate team. And I think the community is kind of emblematic of the larger vision. So you can't really have one without the other. And there's certainly no way that I could have the momentum that we have without having such a phenomenal team that really believes in what we're doing. And I say it probably 20 times a day that I'm just so blessed and grateful to have it. And I think they know too, like we're all on the same level. Like I'm not holding half the supply and like, guys, come on, let's go out there and hit the streets. So, I can be, have this inordinate amount. Like we're all in this together on the same level and we're all trying to push for the same thing. And so, getting out with the meme competitions and the thread contests and some of the things we saw people create that are now members of the community that weren't even at the time have been incredible. I saw people carve a leaf, a literal leaf, our logo into a leaf with a little X-Acto knife. One gentleman made like a bamboo kind of collage of the logo. And so it's just, it's just so cool to have access to so many different parts of the world because you have the ability to align with your sort of people and that have a similar like wanton for like the fairness and the freedom and the equality and the inclusivity of just kind of like an egalitarian platform for everybody to contribute as they see best and bring their unique skills to the table. And 99% of the time, I'd say all the time really, find a place that they can get in, and that just compounds so incredibly. We've gone from $8,000 market cap to a million yesterday. Yesterday we were exactly 14 days old. Yeah, thank you. Yeah, exactly on our 2-week anniversary, we hit $1 million. Yeah, for the first time ever, and we were the chats were going wild, and I think that's a sign of just the community really. And man, what a great experience for me so far to see that.
Thank you, Mr. Johnny, and congratulations for that. That's actually a very big
Thank you.
milestone, to be honest. And
Thank you.
I totally love how I can actually hear it from your voice how in love you are with the community, and I
Yes.
think it's very reciprocating as well, seeing how the community totally supports this project. And once again, it's very nice to know that, especially for you, hearing it directly from you, from the team itself,
Yeah.
Mr. Johnny. It's very nice to know that you guys really values the community a lot. So thank you so much for that.
My
Okay,
pleasure.
so
Thank you.
now, Mr. Johnny, I want us to let's try to look further, maybe into the future. Okay, so I hope you can give us some spoilers since we're already on this topic. So,
Fair
Mr.
enough.
Johnny, is there any exciting events or let's say upcoming partnerships that Suede plans to announce soon?
That's a great question, and yeah, I will. I will walk carefully. I don't want to, obviously, before the ink's dry, I want to be certain that all parties are very much on the same level. But we will be at Token 2049 in Dubai, and we'll have branding, so that's huge for a new project, and that also shows a commitment to building. We had so many claims early on, like, oh yeah, you're probably going to do this, you're probably going to do that, and you know that's understandable. I said it was incumbent upon us to change the viewpoint because so many things had gone on that really spurred me taking this direction with, yeah, I don't know if you remember the 13-year-old on the, who had, taken off, and yeah, that. And so like, I was like, it's on us. Like we are wearing a black eye for everything that's come before. And the reality is that's fair. So we need to ensure that we always act with integrity, complete honesty, and complete transparency, so that we can change that. That's on us. And so that is, Token 2049 in Dubai is going to be great. It'll be my first time going to Dubai. And, we'll have the full setup there representing the Suede token. And so that's exciting. We also have a few influencers that are coming on as well. And what's great about them is they're people that have never promoted financial products. but they know me. They know friends of mine who are also, extremely, I think, of high character in the sense that they don't, their reputation is something that they take very seriously. And so they've come on because they know they can recommend this as a great opportunity without the concern of, this guy's going to take off to the Caymans or, whatever, stuff has gone on. They know that they can recommend it without having to worry about the people they love and care about, their followers, being rugged. And that's always been something that really has blown my mind, is kind of the ability for people to, you know, uh, use their followers as exit liquidity. Not to sound overly cynical, but to me, it's that's really hard to imagine because of the reasons we went over with the community. And so that, I think, shows in the partnerships that we're building, because they're people that would never consider crypto, because of a lot of the things they've seen gone on, that have gone on. But they know this is my first token launch. I've loved this for 10 years and I've never launched anything. So I've never really felt there was need to. I mean, Bitcoin is just so perfect, and Ethereum, and a lot of the other L1s, and now with the like, they do their job very well. And there's going to be shortcomings, but as far as the blockchain trilemma, that I think we have a pretty good balance for all the things we're doing, and it's just going to get better. So I didn't really feel a need, but with all the recent chicanery, with a lot of the launches and the things that went on, and then with the AI agents and the music turning towards a royalty-free direction, I felt like there was a place to really launch something that could actually make a difference, and I saw how that could play out, and so that excited me. And so I think the point that I'm making is, the fact that we're getting a lot of non crypto interest is great. Obviously crypto, that's what we're all here for, and that's what we love because we know its potential. But the more we can actually show people who aren't in love with it yet, that the great aspects of it, and like the people that are behind it, that really like yourself, that have been here and actually like know the potential, um, I think that's really great. I can't tell you how many people I think have downloaded mobile wallets in the past 2 weeks because of Suede, that had never messed with cryptocurrency at all. And I think that's just so cool, because it's just inevitable that you catch the bug, and then you're like, so what's this all about? And you start listening to some of those old Antonopoulos speeches, and then you realize, like, hey, a lot of Venezuelans, a lot of Ukrainians, a lot of people, like, they got out because of contributions we made. A lot of people during the SARS, I don't even remember that, the South African Revenue Service, there were a lot of women that were being really targeted by the police force, and they were never able to allow to own money. We were able to donate Bitcoin to them. They had a QR code, and the majority of them were able to get free. Generations of people that never could get free, and now had a chance at, like, life. It's incredible. So I think that's the inevitable process of speaking to people that don't know, is kind of conveying why this is special.
Thank you so much, Mr. Johnny, and thank you for
My
those
pleasure.
spoilers as well. We will surely look forward to that. But now let's have a broader look. I think just the top of our AMA for today. Let's talk about your roadmap. I mean, we've already talked about some future plans that are waiting to be announced soon. But how about Mr. Johnny, for let's say for the next year? We know this year is wrapping up, so can you tell us some of your plans, like until the end of the year and beyond? Like, are there any major milestones or updates that the community should be aware of?
Sure. So there's a few important things, and I think it's a really large distinction between Suede and a lot of the other AI agents. One of the things you mentioned, distribution. With AI agents, the distribution is the influence on the AI. And this is what I think a lot of people are missing. So the initial creator, you think of a duck, when a baby duck is born, or a chicken, it imprints, the first person it sees is, it considers its mother. So whoever creates the AI has undue influence at the beginning. And so we've taken a different approach where we built the community first. So this way, when we actually engage in the evolution of the AI, it's as a full community. It's not we'll get started and then we'll grow. And that's why we had checked out other platforms like virtuals and things like that. And there was a few reasons why we didn't want to just totally. They're amazing. I mean, the stuff they're doing is incredible, but it's still such a nascent space that I want to make sure that anything that we launch on has been here for months, and the space AI agents is only 2 months or so old. So we want to have the flexibility of not being confined to a particular platform working or not working. That's our entire future on a line of something outside of our control and largely centralized at this point. So we built the community first because it's important that we have a community with skin in the game that actually cares about the well-being of the evolution of the AI, not just some random troll that's going by and just decides to send a message. It's someone that is genuinely like invested and knows kind of the process and has the token. Like that's a level of commitment that we want because they care about the well-being of the agent, and we want everybody to be able to imprint the agent at the same time because there is that uh, filial imprint that happens in the beginning, which is similar to biology. It happens with humans. It happens with chickens. That the first person to start influencing the AI is going to have a huge determinants over the direction that it takes. So once we get at it with the whole group, that's going to be uniquely us. I think people have been a little myopic on that fact, kind of like we'll build the community later type thing. But I think you can't really do it that way because by the time the community is involved, you've already got a personality. So the plan moving forward is build the community, get the AI in multi chains. That's really important to us as well, because we want there's such great ideas between I've been in the arena on AVAX for years, and I've been in the Solana community, and I've been in Ethereum, and since CryptoKitties, I was siring CryptoKitties years ago, and gas fees were $300. Um, so there's so many great ideas on all the chains. So the multi-chain implementation is extremely important, and that's going to happen with the Argonaut upgrade, which will allow us to have full state across all the chains, so that if something happens on AVAX, it happens in Solana, just the state matches. So that's really what we're excited. That's the next step.
Thank you so much, Sir Johnny. And that's actually my last question for you for this, Amy.
Yeah.
So thank you so
All
much,
right.
Sir Johnny, for all of those. That
My
sounds
pleasure.
very exciting. So, Crypto Astronaut community, make sure to check out the social media links, of course, of Suede, which we already posted on our Telegram community at Crypto Astronaut. So, guys, I highly recommend everybody to check out their Telegram community in order to stay updated. Follow them on their official X account. And for more other links related to Suede, you can visit their link tree as well. So I think that concludes our AMA for today. Thank you so much, Sir Johnny, for this
Thank
AMA.
you.
Thank you for this opportunity. We're very pleased, very glad to be introduced way directly by you. Thank you so much for this opportunity.
My pleasure. Those are great questions, and I love your work. So, certainly keep it up. We're very glad to be here.
Thank you so much, Sir Johnny, and we hope
All
to
right.
see you soon once again. Bye bye.
Thank you. You too. Bye.